money saver for New York City.
We're not giving people American Express cards. We are giving them a food card. So instead of a debit card, instead of having to deliver food and have people eat food that we will see.
Work. You saw that in their educator report. You'll have questions. And I included two things in the project status report. One was related to, it's been a long time since we've had any livestock programming in Adams County and in the region. So Adam Hartfield was able to pull that off, and it was very well attended at Signature Farms. And we're also in the process of recruiting for that community health worker, which is part of a grant through the University of Wisconsin Division of Extension and the School of Human Ecology at Madison. So I included the link. So if you knew of anybody in the region or the area that might be interested, you could share that with them. The individual's education requirement is a high school education. Any questions?
Pat, can you give us any more information on the community health worker?
I could try, and I would probably ruin it. So I'm going to turn to my left, and Sheila has been working quite heavily. Is that okay, Sheila? I'll let her describe it far better than I would.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Sheila.
Okay, so is this on? Okay. The community health worker position would be another position to help meet some of the unmet needs within Adams County. And we've identified some possible priority populations or priority conditions. The one that came to the top when I held a community stakeholder meeting to engage ideas for this position's role, one of the several ideas that came to the forefront was assisting with the mental health population and access to care. So to be further defined as we go forward. We also had decided to recruit for a person who is bilingual in Spanish as well as English so that we can outreach to the Spanish speaking population locally and provide some additional services to that population as well.
So did you go out and get some numbers? I mean, how bad of a situation are we in? I mean, we have Health and Human Services, right? So
right,
we're bringing in another whole position. I'm just curious.
Right, and it'll continue to, the position will continue. It's open at this point in terms of the role that this person will end up having when the position is filled and that person is onboarded. They'll go through a standardized training program where they'll learn all about what community health workers are. They will be, and what their roles can be and what they can look like. And it is a rather broad position description in general with as far as community health workers nationwide go. So then we will connect this individual with local stakeholders and local expertise in health and mental health across the board and have them do one-on-one key stakeholder interviews and to help identify the needs and the opportunities and where there is the best fit. And at the same time, this community health worker will have access to that a network of other community health workers where they can glean some great information and guidance and resources. And to answer the question about need, the need is great. The resources are limited, and it's not due to fault of any agency or organization that's trying to help meet those needs. It's just, it's really a matter of capacity and being unable to keep needed positions filled, especially when it comes to mental and behavioral health. The needs far outweigh the resources that are available.
Thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Pat from the committee? I'm going to say that
That's good.
you're off the hook. Project status report. Was everyone able to access the sheet that corresponds to UWX? One of the questions I had was the community health worker, so that's been handled. So anything? All right, moving along. Educators report. Are there any questions for the UW staff? I have some. Supervisor Mons?
I've had the opportunity since I've come to Adams County to work with youth, primarily coaching. And I just want to say that the activity that I've been able to read and get from Evan, I just like that a lot, personally. Not so much as a board member, but just that this is being done. And I think the person that's doing it, I'd like to comment again, is just doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Supervisor Mons. All right, anybody else? I got a quick get some in. Evan, this is for you. Are the number of volunteers up, down, about the same?
I would say about the same.
Okay. In-person event, the 3D printing, electricity, and robotics. Will this be a hands-on event?
Yes.
Okay. Where do the materials and equipment come from for that?
A combination of different programming outlets. So we start with the National STEM 4-H STEM kit. So National 4-H puts out a theme that revolves around science, technology, engineering, and math. And then we build the rest of the sessions around that. And so we have 4-H volunteers or families that have the equipment. So like we have a family that has a 3D printer, they're going to bring it, they're going to share it. The rest of the materials, we're ordering like little robots to pair with the rest of the day. And that's coming from us like a STEM grant that we wrote for.
Nice. That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
SAIL, are we recruiting for the program, or is the program for the current SAIL members, students that are in?
Yep. So both and. So this report, you're going to see this. This is just to talk that we are facilitating a SAIL program. We're always recruiting for a SAIL program.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
The June camping that was mentioned, is that Upham again, or are we still going outside of the county?
We're still going outside of the county. So currently we're going on a year 2 with a camp Lakota, which is in Watoma, Wisconsin. So
Okay.
it's still within our area 14 radius, but again, different location.
Okay, wonderful. 4-H after school.
Yeah,
How is that going?
it's going good. We just started that last week. So we're working with 3rd and 4th grade here in Adams Friendship. Always looking forward to building those capacities to other partners as well. But Adams Friendship has been the first to respond to get us going in the after school mindset and theme in that
Okay.
realm.
Keep us posted on that.
sure.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Angela is not here.
She had to schedule a day off, but we'll see if we can answer for you.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering, when we're talking about senior meal sites, Pat,
Mhm.
are we talking about the Country Skillet, or is there some other ADRC?
Which bullet are you talking about?
Oh, I didn't print it out.
Harvest of the month.
Actually, maybe go down a little bit.
I think it's the second bullet.
It's also down below too, I think, but yeah, senior meal site or receiving home delivered meals from ADRC.
So those are the cards. And then and she shares that information. I don't know that she goes specifically and speaks to them always, but she shares the information about with the sites so that people can take that information home with them and maybe try those particular vegetables or fruits that have a different nutrition value than maybe they're not used to using, so that they could have that information in a take-home way.
Sure.
So that's how she's doing that with, goes with the home delivered meals as well, Linda's saying.
Okay, and then is the ADRC using volunteer drivers or staff for the delivered meals? Do we know?
That one we'd have to refer, I think, to Donna and the rest of
Okay.
their staff, because I'm not sure.
Okay, because I thought we were going more towards a consulting basis on that. Maybe I misheard.
So that would, for delivery, I'm not sure, and that would be more her department, Donna's
Okay.
department than
I reach out
extension.
to her.
Extension just collaborates with them with the information
Yep,
source.
yep.
So that they can do that.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good. Kyle, yes.
Madam Chair, yep, I can kind of address a little bit of that question. So they contracted out with a entity to prepare the meals. They did put in the RFP for them to deliver the meals, however, they did not take them up on that offer, I believe. So they are still delivering their meals for the people that they serve through volunteers or employees.
Okay, so it's a blend of the two. Okay, thank you, Kyle. Sheila, how's the response been on the We Cope curriculum?
The one that's currently operating right now is going really well. I had some health issues and I had to take a couple of weeks off from it and getting back into it again. So this past, I'll see them tomorrow again for our 4th session together because we spent another additional session just catching up on the skills and reviewing. And there's actually been a lot of growth in terms of participation in the caregiver support group in general. So wanted to catch up those newer individuals on what they may have missed in the beginning of the program, but getting great feedback and it's going really well. There's a lot of participation, a lot of discussion, and a lot of people implementing these skills and then being able to share back how they're fitting them into their lives.
So with the participation and the feedback, is the curriculum set or is there some flexibility?
There's some flexibility, which is really why Extension chose to go with Judy Moskowitz's work and her approach, because she would allow us to purchase the program from her and still maintain some flexibility and some ownership over the way that we provide. So for example, the course was designed to be 7 weeks. And after having run it several times, several of my colleagues and I all agree that we can get the content in 6 weeks. So we've adjusted and adapted. Another thing is the curriculum was designed and developed during the time when most meetings were still occurring virtually. So the implementation of how it is delivered looks different from an in-person program, because with in-person, we can have a lot more hands-on activities together that are contributing to that skill development. So I've had to rethink the way that I approach teaching the curriculum due to the in-person nature as opposed to the online nature. Now they're all still getting the same content. They're just getting it in a different way.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Was anything decided on for expanding transportation to better access healthcare, nutrition, and social services?
So great question. That work group was being led by public health, and public health had some staff turnover over the last 6 months. And so we are revisiting where we've been thus far, essentially to catch up the new staff on what we've all attempted to do so far. So the progress we've made thus far as a work group has been to explore what are our wishes, what are our wants, and what are the needs based on the survey data that we've gathered from other entities, such as, I may be speaking incorrectly, but I think there's a not Rural Partnership Network, but a related network had done a survey. And we looked at that survey, we looked at the results as it pertains to Adams County and determined that that wasn't giving us enough information. So our next steps are to develop a local survey. And my, from my perspective, the goal of the survey is to hear predominantly from people who are impacted by struggles with challenges with transportation.
So how are you going to do the outreach to get that survey in the right hands?
So we are going to partner with Health and Human Services staff. Now hang on a second, because I have multiple coalitions and alliances. I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting the right one.
Sorry.
So we're also going to collaborate with probation and parole, with, excuse me, hang on. I'm thinking, digging back in my brain. With the FSET program, Friendship Connections, and other local organizations that are serving people who are struggling with access to transportation. And then we'll also have we'll put out the word to the public in general in every avenue that we can to let them know that this survey is open and we're looking for input.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How are we doing on childcare?
So that alliance is also regrouping again. So after we received the Dream Up grant and focused so heavily on meeting our goals regarding the Dream Up grant, that when that funding was accounted for and spent, we kind of were like, okay, now what's next? So we are still working on community outreach so we have a couple of new work groups that were developed at our most recent meeting. So we have one work group that's working on community events, so outreach to take place during community events such as Kids Day. And then we have another group that's working with the local potential providers, I should say, to get them connected with information and resources to help them be able to establish a child care center if they're so interested. Now that is a long process, and none of these results with transportation or childcare are going to happen rapidly. It's a process of getting all of the pieces into place, and funding is the biggest hang up.
Okay, thank you. We're hoping for the best.
Me too, thank you.
I had some things for Adam. One is I attended the January 11th event of Signature Farms. It was amazing. Really good, a really good event. I was not able to attend the Washera event, but I heard that was good too. I wanted to find out on the national beef audit, when it says consumer demand for beef, grain-fed versus grass-fed, does anyone know? And can we get back to Adam on that and maybe have him fill that out for us down the road? Or go ahead, Pat.
Sure. And he's on leave right now, a new dad. So he won't be
Nice.
back for several weeks. So we will get that information to him. And I would imagine that they will address both grass-fed, because we have that grazing emphasis in some
Right.
of our agriculture programming, as well as grain-fed. But I can get that question to him, and then as soon as he's back, he will let us know.
Please wish him
Oh,
congratulations
for sure.
on his new member, new
Mhm.
family member.
Yep.
Cow-calf school for beginners. Is that link active? Because I went out to sign up for it and it's looking for a login and then you stop.
Okay.
So that just something to keep in mind. And I wanted to ask him how his community networking is proceeding, because I know that that's always difficult, coming into a position, getting out and meeting people and getting a community involved. So
I think he's doing well at that. His program, so I work as his supervisor, but he has a program manager as well, and she's been pleased with the kinds of connections he's made. He's made a lot of connections here with help from all of you, as well as in the other counties that he serves. So it's continuing to be a positive situation for him.
wonderful, wonderful. Okay. I had something for Natasha. Is the growing fresh market vegetables similar to a CSA, a community supported agricultural kind of endeavor?
Here we go with a lot of acronyms. What I know, the fresh market. So she's currently at the Wisconsin I wrote it down. Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers Association. So that's our big farmers, our big potato and vegetable growers. The fresh fruits and market are the smaller ones. So they're like the roadsides that have an affiliation as a group. And so is it a CSA? What's that stand for?
Community supported agriculture. It's like they package up things in a box. You go and pick them up at a designated place. It usually has greens and other vegetables to feed you. And I shouldn't say feed you for a week, but to put towards a meal. So at
Sure.
your main meal, maybe it gives you 7 sides, as you move forward in the week.
I will ask her and have her get that answer to you directly. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. And I just wanted to say that I am really impressed with the expanded information that's being provided on the educators report, because we could see what Anna and Gulong are also up to. So thank you. Everybody, sorry about that lengthiness. Financial reports. Are there any questions regarding the financials? I'm not seeing any. So we are going to have Rick, if Rick is available, to give us a Packers update on the Farmers of the Rosha Creek Group. Rick, are you out there?
I'm here, Chairman.
Welcome, Rick.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just a real quickie, Packers, Petenwell and Castle Rock Stewards. It is a citizen group that's been organized for about 14 years now. We're working to improve the water quality of Lakes Petenwell and Castle Rock. And one of the activities that we get involved in is working with the producer-led councils, or sometimes known as farmer-led councils. In the Wisconsin River watershed, there is, which starts up by Rhinelander and comes down this way, there's 8 producer-led councils that are responsible for their particular areas. And the most recent producer-led council formed is that on the Rotcha Creek. We're working with 6 or 8 farmers, or the producer-led council is exactly what it means. It's producer-led. The farmers, the members of the group, decide which direction they want to go, what they want to get involved in. So Packers was asked to be what's called the fiscal agent for this group of farmers. And the fiscal agent is basically, they put in a grant from DADCAP. The Department of Ag has issued them a grant of $10,000 to be used to experiment, explore, do things that they are not now doing, and kind of get them into new ways, new methods, and so on and so forth that may indeed help them and also help water quality. And so this year, they have received a grant of $10,000. And what happens is that $10,000 doesn't come to them till at the end of the year. So Packers is going to fund that money. We will put the money up front as they need it to do their specific projects. And then DADCAP will pay us back. And so there's been quite a partnership that we are really proud of. And I'm going to just show you, this was the idea. Well, some shirts and caps have been designed, and one of the farmers indicated, well, it'd be kind of cool if Packers was on the shirt. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's a real.
Hold on, Rick. Let's just see what we can everyone see that? Oh, nice job.
I thought that, thank you. And I thought that was very nice of the farmers to say, we would like Packers on there too. And then I will proudly put on their cap. So it's an indication of a real partnership. We are probably, I mentioned there's 8 producer-led councils in the Wisconsin River watershed, which, by the way, this whole idea of producer-led started in 2016. So it's not that long. Today, there is almost 50 producer-led councils across the state. And usually the fiscal agent for each of those 50 producer-led councils is a third party. And we, being that party, We are the only lake citizen group in the state that we believe is taking on that role. On February 20th, there will be a meeting in Wausau where all of these fiscal agents and members of the producer-led councils from across the state will all come together for a day-long event to learn from DADCAP and others that are putting this on, how all this is to work. So we're looking forward to that. And I think that kind of concludes the report that I had to make. And I would certainly entertain any questions.
Rick, thank you. Are there any questions for Rick? Supervisor Krug has a question for you, Rick.
Hey, Rick, Scott Krug.
Yes, Scott?
Just wanted to tell you, thank you to Packers for stepping up to the plate here as one of the original authors of the program. I'm glad to see Packers really step up and be the first that can take on the model from this perspective. I think it's a good way forward here, and the working collaborations you've developed is a real testament to your leadership and to your group's active ability to draw people together. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for such kind words, Scott. Certainly appreciate that.
Thank you from all of us, Rick and Scott and the whole Packers group. Any other questions or comments from anyone else? Rick, this will be an ongoing agenda item, so please know that it'll be available every month at the committee level for updates, and we would love to have you.
Okay. And Jody, can I say one more thing?
Certainly.
And I know it's further down on your agenda here, but Packers has been and is this year a sponsor of the Wisconsin Land and Water Conference being held in Green Bay. We've been involved in sponsoring that event for quite a few years now, and I won't be here for that part of the agenda, but I wanted to squeeze that in.
Sounds good. And you're going to be in attendance at that event too, aren't you?
I'm going to be there. I was called by Dave Peterson, the person in your position in Portage County last week. He says, "Are you going?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, I'm going too." So, yeah, it's a very good thing to attend.
I'll be there too, along with, I'm sure, some others. So
oh,
we'll
great.
meet up. Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Jody.
All right. We are going to move on to the Drainage Board applications. So
Okay, so I did speak with Judge Wood and he said that we could move forward with 2 applicants. So they were attached to the agenda. I did take out their addresses and phone numbers. It's now up to the committee to vote on whether they want to forward none, one, or both of them onto the judge. And the committee needs to do an official motion.
Lynn, can I ask you a question? There's 3 on the board, right? On the Drainage Board, there's 5.
5.
Okay, and we have how many positions filled?
3.
Okay, so these last 2 would round everything out.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Supervisor Krug.
I would make a motion that we would recommend Phil McLaughlin to fill one of the Drainage Board positions.
Do I have a second? Doreen Olson, second. Open for discussion. I think he'd do a fine job. So, my opinion. Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing any. I'm sorry, Supervisor Mons. Okay. Let's take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Phil McLaughlin will be one of the applicants going forward. Yes, Supervisor Mons.
Is there any reason that we feel that Karen should not also be nominated? Is there any opposition, or in fact, to open the subject, I'm going to nominate that Karen Notek be nominated.
Do I have a second? I'm not familiar with her. I did read her application. I also went out and looked at the drainage board PDF, which is a long one. So, it does go into what kind of skill sets you kind of need. I'm not familiar with all of the things that Karen put on her application. Does that provide for her skill set? And yes, Supervisor Mons.
I also consider myself a lifelong learner over the last 6 years. I have learned a great deal from Extension and Wisconsin Department of Resources experts who have done impressive presentations on groundwater and its effects on all of us. I have participated in farm tours, educational opportunities regarding our watershed, as well as producing informational opportunities for our community.
Yep, I read that. So, no, we're waiting for a second. And not seeing it. Yes.
Jody, this is Rick.
Yes,
I
Rick.
I do know Karen, and she's been very actively involved in the 14 Mile for quite a few years now. But I don't know if it's my role to say any more than just that.
Rick, can I ask you a question? Since you're still on, thank you, by the way. How this various things on her application, does it help with drainage, flooding situations?
I'm not,
Tiles?
I'm not the one to say on that. What I could say is that of Karen is that she's a really responsible, dedicated individual. When she takes something on, she really takes it on and represents it very well. But I don't know any of the skill sets. I don't know the work involved in this position to really make the connection between the applicant and the work. I know
Okay.
she's dedicated and she's very much interested in water and it's so on.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Supervisor Krug and then Supervisor Mons.
Yeah, I think just the general lack of personal knowledge of Karen and her work, I think would make committee members more apt to get on board with this if we had a chance to have a discussion with her. Maybe if we table this till next meeting, maybe have her come and discuss why she feels it's a good fit. Might be easier for a second to get on board then.
Okay, so the motion has failed due to lack of a second. And then Supervisor Mons, did you?
Because I don't know when the last time we had a full board.
The full drainage board?
Correct. Number
Yeah.
one. Number two, when we have a person willing to do this.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think we want a good fit. And so I think having her come, can we reach out to her or is that unusual to have someone come and?
Well, in the years I've been here, we've never had anyone come in person.
Okay. Well, we do unusual things. So yeah,
I think it's worth, if she's willing to come out and, answer questions and kind of give a more verbal history, on her, on her experience and stuff like that. I think that would be beneficial.
thank you, Dorian. Supervisor Krug?
Yeah, I think we did the same with Mary Lou. I mean, that's how we ended up with Mary Lou up
Yep.
front, is she was here and kind of told us a little bit about her background and skill set and advocacy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with just taking some time. I get we want to have a full board, but I'd rather have the full board be right than the full board just be full.
Sounds like a plan. So Lynn, could you see that happens for next meeting? Okay, are we all comfortable with that? All right, sounds good. Thank you. Annual County Forest 2024 work plan. Anything from the committee?
I do
And-
want to mention some, or,
Yep, go ahead, Justin.
so the work plan that's on there shows, it says it's a copy of the annual work plan. That's not the updated one.
Great.
I don't understand. There was a lot of, during the last meeting, there was discussion about adding in recreational opportunities for
Thank you, guys.
the potential or the proposed acquisition. That was all updated, but that's not the correct version. One says copy of annual report and the other doesn't say copy of. And that's where why they're not the same. So I don't know if you want to table it until next one.
I would like to table it for another reason though too. So one thing that I think was brought up last time was the trails.
Yep, and that's in this.
Yep, and so I saw in the staff report that you were recommending we don't do any trails. So I think the committee said on a small scale, we need to step forward and do some trails, and we do have a recreational trails program grant, which is a deadline of May 1st. Yeah. So to be proactive, I would like for that to be addressed.
So the paragraph that was added in the annual work plan, the anticipated purchase of the 598 acres provides a substantial opportunity to increase recreational resources for the citizens of Adams County as well as those visiting the area. Chapter 900 of the Adams County Forest Plan addresses current and future recreational uses within the county forest. Non-motorized trails are addressed in that chapter. The current 40 and 100 acre tracts are not conducive to having established trails. However, the 598 acres could provide numerous trails for uses such as mountain biking and horseback riding. Following the acquisition of the new property, the Land and Water Division will begin to research and lay out a potential trail system. The proposal would then come to the committee for consideration.
So just because I'm a dog with a bone, how is it that the 140 acres isn't conducive to one trail? Well, let's just start small scale, just one trail.
So what kind of trail?
Forestry mulcher, let's get it in there. And I don't know, I mean, quick and dirty.
But I mean,
But-
are you referring to a horseback trail, a hiking trail, a mountain bike trail, snowmobile, UTV?
I'm saying hiking, let's go on pedestrian. I mean, let's, so to me, that's what we're trying to bring in, right? So pedestrian, sorry, go ahead, Doreen.
I'm also thinking, there is a small population that's, ADA, and even having a small trail that's available to them would be very beneficial.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of trails aren't accessible, for nature for people with ADA issues. So even having a small trail just for them, for that reason, would be beneficial for this community.
I think so too.
And I think, and the way I wrote this is, we come up with a plan of getting ideas what kind of trails we want. I mean, that's, motorized, non-motorized, ADA accessible or not. Putting together a detailed plan, I think across our whole county forest system, and having the division or the committee then fine tune or approve that plan. Can you put trails on a 40 and a 100 acre parcel? Yes, absolutely. I don't know if that's potentially the best use of funds, and that's why I was waiting for the 598 acre parcel to come on board. Because then I think you can make actually like a very worthwhile extensive trail.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, I don't deal with the grants. So the recreational trail program. If we would get that grant, how much money are we talking about? Do we know?
It's an 80% reimbursement from what I see. So I mean, whatever the cost of the trail would be, 80% of it would be funded by the state.
So looking forward, if we were talking about an ADA compliant pedestrian trail in 140 acre forest.
Well, it's actually 100 and a 40.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, a 40 and 100. Starting at the sign, right? I mean, you guys have put signs in. You're giving a beacon of come and enjoy me. And there's nothing there. So what is 80% of what? Of a small pedestrian ADA trail? Can we do it with that grant? Can we ask, do this? We want this.
Right, but writing a grant isn't just asking for the money. I mean, we have to have the entire plan in place and set up and
That's fine.
dollar amount estimates.
Can we start with just a trail plan not get all mired in the details of this is what we want to do. This is just one aspect of what we want to do. We want to make it welcoming. We want to put a trail into place.
Sure.
Yes? Okay, I'm looking at both of you guys because I don't know who's the one that's going to be pulling the trigger on it. Supervisor Moans and then Doreen Olson.
Excuse me. So, do you have any idea a 3-mile trail cost? Any idea?
Wouldn't even know where to start guessing.
Colton, would you?
No, it doesn't. The outline of the grant doesn't state how much, like a specific length of a trail is. It says to reach out if you're interested in applying, and they
Okay.
can give you an instant.
And so we could even do like a little loop-de-loop or something. I mean, it doesn't have to be 3 miles. Supervisor Munns, are you saying we need a 3-mile trail? We should set up some, criteria?
No,
Okay,
but however, if it's an 80% grant and the trail costs $40,000, where's the $10,000 or the $8,000 going to come from on top of that?
correct.
On top of the grant. So I think that has to be established before we even discuss trails. Is there a way to find out per mile, what does a trail cost? And again, it's hard to do because if you run into obstacles or if you run into, swamp or you run into different areas, it's kind of hard to decide that. So I don't know how we can.
So we're saying mapping it out.
Correct.
Okay, and forestry mulchers are amazing. I gotta tell you.
Correct.
It's like one and done. And we do have some local forestry mulchers in Adams County that might be able to help. Doreen Olson.
So I'm just wondering if we kind of establish like 2 plans, right? So, part of it is if the big force comes on board, right? If that happens, then obviously we have a bigger, but we should also, have a plan A and a plan B. So let's have a plan for these smaller tracks. And, whether it's we just start with 1 trail on them, make it ADA compliant, when we get to the bigger forest, if that happens, then that would be like a plan B, right? But I think we shouldn't ignore the smaller tracks just because they're smaller. I'm short and you don't ignore me, do you? You'd like to.
So the work plan isn't necessarily supposed to be a super detailed, this is what's going to happen. Talks about developing plans, researching opportunities, whether it's part of that or not. And then in the updated version, it does talk about I did include that about the grant opportunity.
This is the copy that we're not seeing?
Correct.
Okay.
Which we can wait till next month, but it's in here, but as far as in the work plan saying we are going to develop 1.1 mile of ADA trail, I don't think that's what this work plan is.
Specifically, you're saying don't be specific.
Right. It's a general direction. Where are we heading this year? Or what we hope to do this year. Let's look at the trail system. And to be honest, the 598 acres is going to be, by the time we have this conversation at the next committee meeting, is very possibly a done deal.
Okay.
So
let's get the copy out to everybody and we'll get back to the trail conversation and whatever next month.
And Colton and I can start looking at, I think topography and vegetation, how dense the vegetation is going to affect the cost. So I don't know if there might be an average cost per foot or mile or whatever that we might be able to dig up and get an idea on. The one plan that I saw from another county, it wasn't a county forest, it was completely separate. They went in, they had a few hundred acres and they laid it out. Before that, a shovel in the ground, before they applied for anything, they said, this is what we want to see for this property. And I think that's important for us to do. If we have, the reason I keep going back to waiting a little bit is we have an ADA trail on one parcel. Do we want ADA trails on all of them? Or should we focus on, well, maybe we should put an ADA trail on the larger parcel because that's going to be more to develop cost wise as opposed to putting it on the small one. So should we do it now or should we hold off on that conversation until the summer when we sit down and put together more of a comprehensive trail system?
So,
Can
hold
we
on.
apply for the grant if we don't really have a plan?
That's my question.
My understanding is no. Now this is a,
Bolton? You cannot. You have to have a piece of property that you're putting a trail on.
Correct.
And an intended outcome for it, right?
and my understanding is this is an annual grant. So if we don't get it for this year, we try again next year when we actually have a plan together.
Yeah, it
But
probably would have been a good idea to maybe flesh this out before. Go ahead, Supervisor Mo.
I think you need a motion to table it, so.
Yeah,
I make a motion.
no, I don't think so. It was just under for discussion, right?
Discuss and or act on, so.
Discuss and or act. Okay, yep, all right. So I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Second. Supervisor Carvolio. Any more discussion? Seeing none, let's, oh, sorry, go ahead, Supervisor Carvolio.
Just one thing, I'm newbie here, so agree with Dustin, what he's saying. I think we should look at other counties and see how they've already crossed this bridge. And let's not sit here and reinvent the wheel. They may already have confronted many of these issues that we're talking about. And if we maybe sit down with a couple counties and find out how they've achieved their trail system, it would help us in the long run.
Colton and Dustin, do you have any recommendations for reaching out to other counties or?
That's something that we can do. Oh, sorry, go ahead if you.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I can reach out to other counties and then I'll also have a conversation with Bobby Weinbar. He's the Wisconsin DNR person who advocates for that program. So
Can you bring that information next month?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, so any other discussion? Thank you, Supervisor Carvolio. All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay. Water withdrawal from area lake districts. Mary Lou was going to bring this back to Adams County Lake Alliance Group. That's meeting tonight. So that is not going to be discussed, but Jeff Spitzer-Resnick is here and signed up for public participation. Welcome, Jeff.
Not quite that tall. Most of you have seen me here before on this issue. I just wanted to make a few comments in case you haven't seen what I think has been put into both today's agenda and last month's agenda. Sorry, I couldn't make it last month. My mom actually passed away. There's two bottom lines, both from the memo that came from DNR and the memo that I secured from Midwest Environmental Advocates. The DNR simply doesn't regulate water withdrawals under 2 million gallons average per day. And so what the DNR, my reading, is saying is we're not going to advise counties or any other entities, watershed districts, whatever, to whether or not you can regulate, because it's just not in our purview. That actually fits very nicely with what the Midwest Environmental Advocates say and what we're proposing, which is if we want to stop what I consider abusive water withdrawals, then the way to do it is at the local level. Just as a quick reminder, the Goose Lake Watershed District did pass an ordinance, but that ordinance can only be enforced by the watershed district. And, you know, we don't have a sheriff, police, whatever. So essentially with our tiny, literally about $25,000 a year annual budget, if we wanted to enforce, we'd have to go to court, hire attorney, et cetera, et cetera. It would be challenging. In a brief conversation with the chair, Jody, beforehand, it was suggested to me that the County Corporation Council advised that, well, all you have to do is seek a cease and desist order. I'm an attorney, and to seek cease and desist order, you have to have a basis. And if there's no ordinance, so let's say it's not on Goose Lake, it's on, I don't know, Petenwell. And Petenwell doesn't have an ordinance and the county doesn't have an ordinance. And DNR says we don't regulate under 2 million gallons. So nobody's regulating. There would be no basis. I mean, you could go to court with a cease and desist order and the court would say, well, what's my legal authority to grant you the cease and desist order? And I think the answer would be, well, we don't have one, and the court wouldn't grant it. So while I appreciate Corp Counsel's opinion, I don't think it'll work. So I continue to hope that this committee and then eventually the county board will adopt an ordinance that will restrict with, permits allowed in appropriate circumstances. No, the idea was never to ban water withdrawals, but just to actually have a review of, does this make sense given water levels, given the amount requested to withdraw, et cetera. And then of course, exemption for fire and other public purposes.
Thank you, Jeff. Do you want to hang out there for just
Sure.
a minute? First, do we have any questions for Jeff? Second, could Corp Counsel Hayes weigh in on the cease and desist?
Well, right now, one of the big things we got to think about is riparian rights. I mean, people that live next to the lake have their riparian rights. Somebody that does not, and this is my reading on it, somebody that does not live next to the lake does not have riparian rights. So somebody that does not live next to the lake could not go to the lake and withdraw the water from it. So that's where I think a cease and desist would work.
By who though? That's my question. Who would, so let's say you're on Petenwell, okay? And Petenwell, I don't know, does Petenwell even have a watershed district? I don't think it does.
I don't
Okay,
think so.
so there's nobody that has authority over Petenwell Lake. Who would, in that circumstance, request the cease and desist?
Who's ever complaining about the person withdrawing the water?
I don't even think they'd know to do it. Also, isn't the boat launch public? So that they could just pull up to the boat launch?
Which is exactly what happened at the Goose Lake Watershed District.
And again, that brings up another issue of somebody who has riparian rights. Could they let somebody that doesn't come on their property and withdraw it? So we've got a lot of issues to look at here.
I'm not suggesting it's not complex, which is why I've sought legal opinions and gotten them. I just think that if we just let it go, then circumstances such as happened with the campground that came to Goose Lake, took our water, then when we passed an ordinance, they went to another lake, will continue to happen. And I will tell you that I did send a cease and desist notice after we passed the ordinance. And so, and that was the basis for our cease and desist, I will say, request. Had they chosen to violate it, the only thing we could have done is hire an attorney. Yes, I'm an attorney, but I wouldn't represent our district. That would be inappropriate to follow through. And there would have been nothing I could do to stop them from going somewhere else. Last but not least, I cannot emphasize enough the preventive benefit of, as Jody just said, you have a boat launch. Most boat launches have signs with different, fish limits, that kind of stuff. So that's what we did. We post, in addition to sending it to the particular violator, if you will, we posted it, and it's still posted. And hopefully, when people know about it, that's why we post speed limits. Now, a lot of people violate them, but they'd probably violate them worse if we didn't have any signs up, right? So, I actually believe that if not 100%, 99% of this problem would be dealt with simply by passing an ordinance and posting it, because then potential violators, if you will, would see it and say, oh, well, I guess we can't do this.
So I have a tendency to agree there's strength in numbers. And so what can the county do, Corp Counsel?
Again, it's something that I can look into, but when you're talking about drafting an ordinance, first of all, who's going to enforce it? Who's going to monitor it? You're talking about, there can be some water taken out of the lake, how much? Who determines how much? Who determines what level the lake's at before it can be? There's just a lot to be considered here. I think the problem really comes down to enforcement. And I think, like I said before, you know, talk to the other lakes. Are we really having problems with people abusing, withdrawing water from lakes? If there's not a problem, we shouldn't make an ordinance.
Again, we came here because it was a problem. And we passed an ordinance to prevent that problem from continuing at a small 82-acre lake, Goose Lake. And then the violator, again, technically without an ordinance, it's not a violator, but I'll just call them that, went to another lake. I'll be glad to work with you to, and I believe I've sent you the ordinance we passed, but it can be modified. It can be adapted to what's appropriate. Who would enforce it? Well, obviously, in almost all cases, most ordinances are enforced by complaint. So, you know, no one is suggesting that we hire staff to monitor boat launches or other lakes to, you know, take a look out for water withdrawals. But if we know that there's an ordinance, and whether it's a citizen or a watershed district or anybody else who says, wait, I just saw a truck with a big pipe and they're filling up their tanker. I don't get it. Oh, and I saw a sign at the boat launch that says you can't take more than fill in the blank. With our ordinance, we said 100 gallons. And again, to be clear, without a permit. So some process would need to be developed of who would deal with the permits. I would say this committee could, or assign staff to, and decide what is an appropriate withdrawal. Again, given water level, given amount of water requested to be withdrawn. We could look at how DNR reviews the permits that it does issue or grant, which is again for 2 million and over, but I'm sure it has some criteria. It doesn't just, you know, willy-nilly say, yep, granted, not granted. So, you know, I think there's places we can, this is a problem that can be figured out. Not to say that there isn't complexity. It's why I keep coming back.
Thank you, Jeff. Can I ask, would the Land and Water Department be able to offer permitting if we went that route?
I don't think that permitting would be an issue with our department.
Okay. So we're not going outside of the realm of responsibility. Is it something, Jeff and Corp Counsel Hayes, that you could work together?
I would be glad to.
I know there's a lot of intricacies involved, but I also think we're just going to kick the can down to another body of water.
I would love to see this dealt with before spring. Obviously, well, you don't know how soon ice is going to be out this year,
Right.
Sooner than normal, but you know, sooner is better than later, so that when, I mean, nobody's taking water out when it's frozen, but when spring comes, it's at least possible.
Yes, Doreen, sorry. And Supervisor Krug, and then who's next over here? I thought, nope, okay, Doreen.
Just as a side note, we are still in a drought. So just to make it aware, we're still in a drought status.
Oh,
Exactly. I had said, you know, I think one time when I presented this, if this was 5 years ago, I would have begged them to take water out of our lake. I actually literally had residents who were trying to propose a pumping project to lower the level of the lake. We didn't do it, I think, for good reasons. Right. So that would be part of the permitting process. If you're in a flood situation, be my guest, take all the water you want. If you're in a drought situation, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We have all kinds of problems here with you lowering the water level even more.
Supervisor Krug.
Bit of my same concern, right? I mean, so I've dealt with these issues for 12 years now in the legislature, talking about high capacity wells and who can withdraw water from where during droughts, and how are we going to sustain our agricultural economy in times like that. Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to the point where we're overloading on permitting because we're either high on water or low on water, who can take water and when we're going to take water. I don't know, you know, where you're looking, I mean, Goose Lake is 82 acres.
Mm-hmm. I mean, roughly, depending on
roughly
flooding or drought.
probably one of the smallest lakes in the county that's got a lake management district, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So I mean, that's 82 acres of water is like 27 million gallons.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So
But
I mean,
again,
if you saw somebody taking 2 million, I mean, DNR is going to be there in a heartbeat. Like, what in the
right,
heck's
but
going on?
just so we're clear, what the law says, and this, when I looked at it carefully, and this is what's really stunning. DNR doesn't have to you don't have to request a permit if the withdrawal is less than an average of 2 million gallons per day over a 30-day period. So you could take 59.9 million gallons out in one day without a permit, without regulation, if you don't take any more out until you come back 31 days later. So you could, I'm glad I don't know the calculations there. You could drain the lake without any, I mean, to me, this was stunning when I found out that there was silence in state law. But, you know, look, there's a lot of good arguments for local control. And so for lower amounts of water, we have I view it as an opportunity for local control here.
I think my bigger concern is looking out for the ag economy in those areas too, just to make sure that we've got ability, resources. Things have happened significantly that have been extreme drought and extreme flood in Adams County over the last 10 years alone. It's a hard sell for me, but I appreciate you being here.
I just, so you know, I know of no farmers who are withdrawing surface water. This is generally done for construction purposes. Okay. Right. But this is not what we're talking about. And I appreciate you bringing up high cap wells, and Corp Counsel and I discussed this when this first came up, and he pointed out that the DNR and the courts have ruled as full governance over high cap wells. We're not talking about high cap wells here at all. It's a different part of the state statutes. It's groundwater versus surface water. So, you know, I wouldn't even, given both the state statutes and the case law around it, I wouldn't even begin to try to propose a local ordinance on high cap wells.
Yes, Mary Lou.
Jody, don't you think that, I mean, as a county, why are we even though getting into this until the other water districts and that lake districts have a chance if they want to pass it and that, but I don't think that the county should be involved in it until the other lake districts. I mean, okay, we have one, maybe two districts that are complaining, but shouldn't they put a resolution out first and then we talk about it?
So you would like for us to wait until ACLA, Adams County Lake Alliance, meets and the districts are there and representing themselves?
They want to do that even.
Okay.
Just a quick comment on that. So first of all, the Lake Alliance has already agreed that this is a good idea. They supported the ordinance we passed with the modification, which we frankly forgot about for public purposes, fire, etc. The problem with your suggestion is that most of the lakes in the county don't have lake districts. So even if every lake that had a lake district adopted the ordinance that we're proposing, and the Lake Alliance doesn't have any legal authority. I mean, it's just, it's a good, great, wonderful group, but it doesn't have, it can't pass an ordinance. So it would leave all the non-lake district lakes unprotected.
But don't you think that then the lakes could come to their town boards and that and have the town board enact an ordinance?
Town ordinances are also not enforceable. The sheriff's department won't. No one will enforce a town ordinance unless you have your own sheriff's department. So really there is no teeth into having anything unless it passes countywide. But I would like to have input from the other lakes in the Lake Alliance. I mean, if there's a majority that says, yeah, I really think that this would be something beneficial to have on board, then I think we delve into it deeper. But until, you know, I totally understand. I totally understand your point, but we should really have more buy-in from other lakes.
I'll be glad to talk to Bill Pegler, the chair. I'm pretty sure that a few months ago, and some people maybe weren't here, don't remember, made it clear that the Lake Alliance had agreed that we should have this ordinance. But apparently they're bringing it up again, and I'll be glad to, I'll shoot them a message when I go sit down.
So Jeff, tonight is the ACLA
Yep,
meeting.
I'm
So,
no.
okay, are we comfortable giving it back to ACLA to have the Lake Districts bring up? And then Mary Lou and Jeff, could we have this discussion again next month? If possible, yes.
I
Maureen.
should be able to be back next month, yeah.
So just as a side note, that I think it's also beneficial to have lake size variations, right, in this ordinance. So if you're a large lake,
There's a lot of intricacies, I think, Doreen,
right?
that we're gonna need.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's the point.
Kind of
that
a
it's not-
range.
Yes, you
Yeah.
know, so yeah, okay, you got my
Okay.
point.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else in regards to water withdrawals? All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Jeff, thank you so much. All right. Discuss the MOA between U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS, and Adams County Land and Water Conservation Department. Did everyone find that in their packet? I guess the one question I had, if no one minds, is there a deadline to approve this MOA?
There isn't a deadline, it's just a draft.
Oh.
And then I spoke to Caleb Zahn from NRCS, and this is a draft agreement, and he said that we can make any kind of edits. There's no deadline to it, and then he would get us the final if we were accepting of it.
Okay, so when was the last MOA with NRCS?
It expired in 2014.
2014? Okay, so it's a lot of years in between. Could we see the MOA that existed in 2014 and kind of be able to get a comparison of what the ask is?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm so sorry, did anyone else on the committee have something to?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just so the committee's aware, I did read over the MOA. I didn't see anything in here that was disturbing or alarming to me. It looked all right.
thank you. Go ahead, Supervisor. Mo-
Current one or the one from 2014?
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
The current one.
Okay, were you provided the 2014 one?
No, I just looked at the current one.
Okay. I guess I'd like to have some time to look at where we were and where we're going.
I make a motion to table this until we have the opportunity to review the 2014 MOA.
Thank you. Second, okay, first by Supervisor Moan, second by Supervisor Carvolio. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried to table until next month, and then Colton, you'll send out the 2014? Okay.
Yep, I can do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the resolution authorizing participation in the Department of Natural Resources Municipal Dam Grant. Does anyone wish to?
I make a motion that our water department, our land and water conservation department be authorized to participate in the Department of Natural Resource Municipal Dam and Grant Program.
Okay. Any discussion? Mary Lou?
I know I looked that way. I'm just wondering, okay, how long is this grant for and?
Could we get some details?
The grant will be project specific for the repair of the Roche Creek or the Cottonville Dam. It is a biennial grant cycle that you can only apply every 2 years. And my understanding is that is what the term of the project is as well, or the life of the grant. Sorry, I guess that's a better way to put it. So we would anticipate using it in the next 2 years but it is a very project specific. It says that in the resolution for that. And Ayers and Associates are the ones that are putting the grant application materials together. That was part of the they're doing a large scale investigation of what is wrong at the dam. And part of that investigation was also preparing the grant materials and going through the DNR process for us.
Okay, because I saw investigate the cause of the deficiencies and to develop a plan, but it doesn't say in here that they're doing the grant.
Their contract ended up saying we didn't ask for it, but they put that in there when they gave us the proposal of what they were doing.
Does this resolution need to reflect that?
Who paid for?
No,
Or
who's
who-
doing the grant?
No, the grant is ours.
Okay,
it'll
but
be an ad-
Ayers,
there's-
Ayers is filling it out.
Yeah, they're just writing it. I mean, filling in the blanks.
Supervisor Moons?
I think the key here is project specific.
Yeah,
If it's not
Cottonville.
Just a grant, we just don't say, okay, we're gonna have some dam repairs in 2024, so we need $500,000. I think that it has to be filled out as Dustin said, project specific.
Deadline is March 1st, 2024. Does this give us enough time?
It has to be approved at county, or it has to be
The
approved by
next county board
this
meeting.
month.
Yeah, otherwise we're dead in the water.
Correct.
No pun intended.
For two-
Sorry.
For 2 years.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. And seconded. Any more discussion? Could you repeat the motion, Melissa?
The motion was to approve the resolution participation in the carbon natural resources municipal dam grant program.
Okay, thank you. So we all know
Specifically, the land and water.
UWX.
Specifically, the Land and Water Department would be authorized to participate in the Department of Natural Resource Municipal Dam Grant Program.
Okay, so that's what we're voting on. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried. Resolution needs to be signed before we leave today. And we'll pass this on to full county board. Thank you. Next. Hold on, gotta flip my page. Say it again, Supervisor Bones. Yep, project status report. Was everyone able to access the worksheet? Okay. Are there any questions from the committee? How's the tree and shrub sale going? Good.
Yep, it's going good. Actually I think my status and my monthly updates that we just reached 4,000. We just, within the past 3 days, we had like over $1,000 worth of tree sales. So it's going good.
Are we low on anything?
Still doing good.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Excuse me. I have on here status of plans for 14-mile watershed plan implementation. Do we have any update on where we're going with that? Because we lost our watershed agronomist. Project status, yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, we are, Colton and I actually met with the DNR yesterday.
Are you mic'd?
No.
Okay. Sorry,
Um,
I thought I was my hearing.
Colton and I met with DNR staff, Scott Provost yesterday and others, for the specific purpose of going over the 9 key element, where we need to go, what we need to still accomplish in the final year, how best to address that. Colton and I are going to get together in the next tomorrow or Thursday morning, discuss that, and then also have conversations with administration as far as what the best route to proceed is. There is still work that needs to be done, so we do still have to figure out how to do that. We have options, whether it's contracting out, doing an internship. And we want to sit down and actually say, here are the exact items that need to be done. And that's going to determine how we fill that position.
In the conversation with Scott Provost, did anyone come up with, can we hit the pause button
I don't,
without, you know, having to pay back 2 years of grant money? And I'm just concerned.
there is a final deadline that it has to be done by. We can ask for an extension.
What is the deadline, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it expires on November 30th. It's
Of this
3
year.
years from the date. Essentially that the former employee was hired. Which would be November, it's November 20th, I believe is the actual date. And we can ask for an extension to go beyond that, which it sounds like it's not a huge deal, or rubber stamp, not a problem. Until we know where we're going. We haven't published for a new, you know, for a replacement. We want to make sure that we get what we need to take the project the rest of the way for the final year. As far as pausing, I think there's a lot of good momentum out there, and I don't think that's a great idea. We're 2 years out of 3 years into a project, and there's a very definitive list of deliverables that have to be met. And we're, I mean, what would you say, Colton? 95% of the way there. So it's not, we know what we have to do to finish. And I don't think pausing would necessarily be the greatest idea, other than this brief month while we're figuring out what type of personnel we should have in that position.
Okay. Supervisor Krug and then Doreen.
Thanks. I go back and forth on this one a lot, right? I mean, so living up there, being involved in this on an everyday basis, I have no problem finishing out our 3-year process, letting this play out. It's the future of this that concerns me. You know, the previous employee and I talked a lot about what's actually happening besides conversation. And that's been my struggle, is every few months having that conversation. It's like, well, we're bringing more people to the table. We're having good conversation. I have concerns about moving on beyond the 3 years, but I think it's appropriate that we finish out what we started and get to get a good synopsis of what we actually accomplished.
Thank you, Doreen.
I'm a little bit in the dark. Who left?
Kyle Kettner.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm sorry. He was our watershed agronomist. He left on January 25th, 6th, something there. Yeah, he's at NRCS now.
Oh, okay.
So yes, go ahead.
I want to respond to Supervisor Krug's comment. So the first 2 years of this project have definitely been about laying the groundwork, making the connections and educational events. Especially after our conversation with the DNR yesterday, the third year is definitely more focused towards implementation. There's still a lot of fact gathering that goes into it, but we talked about accomplishing things this coming summer where people can actually see this happen. The idea on this is a smaller part of a overall grant that's more like a 10-year plan. This is the initial stage. Implementation happens after that, and in the plan it's designed to be from 14 Mile and other bodies besides just Adams County. But there are some preliminary steps that are can be accomplished and would be very visible on the landscape that we can. The way it was put to us yesterday, that's what we should be focusing on for the remainder of this year.
So I hear a lot of words, and I'm just curious, those words, are you saying that there are implementation ideas for the end of the contract, or?
Yep. One of the, and whether it can happen or not, because it's not a it's nothing that we can force to happen. One of the project deliverables that Scott from the DNR said would be right at the top of the list of complying or satisfying all the requirements for our staffing grant would be to, by the end of the year, having a producer-led watershed group formed in the 14 mile.
And where are we on something like that? Go ahead, Supervisor Krug.
Amen.
Yep.
I have been asking for that for 5 years before we even started this, right? I mean, there are some
Right.
things that are more readily done than others, and this whole 9 key element plan project should be the next step. It shouldn't have been the first step, and the producer led should have been the first step from the beginning, because I just think it's so much more valuable to have that buy-in originally in and actually get some implementation done. I'm sitting on Tri-Lakes for the last 2.5 years. We've done more in just the local area on Tri-Lakes than we could ever expect to be accomplished in the 9 key element plan in its entirety. So I mean, I need that to happen to see any more support for me moving forward. So I need to see that happen.
And that's what
That's your
Hope
guys'
and I are
initiative?
continue our discussion this week, but I think that's where this is heading.
That's the initiative.
Right. That's
So talking with Scott Provost, it sounds like there's 4 farmers that are interested in it, and we need 1 more to create a producer-led group. But the hard part about it was that we can't force them to create the group. They have to be the ones to say like, oh.
They go for the
show
grant, right?
interest. Yeah,
Right, to form the group.
correct.
well, so and that's where it's a little bit. Any 5 could start a producer-led watershed group. You don't have to have a grant to do it. It depends on if you want to start like the one we do have now, Farmers of Rocha Creek. They put on educational events and they have training and they have applied and received grants for the last couple of years. And that's what helps pay for those, and they can do test plot or demonstration sites. You don't have to apply for a grant to do a farmer-led.
No, but you do
producer-led.
have certain criteria to create a farmer-led producer group, unless I'm just missing the boat here, so.
5 farmers say they want to have a producer-led watershed group. And that's
it.
Essentially, now if you want to start getting the grant, applying for grants, then you have to have, what was it, Richard from Packers? You have to have
Rick, yeah.
a fiscal agent, some type of nonprofit, whether it's county, Packers, something along those lines. But that's only for the grant portion.
Okay,
So that my gut tells me that's where we're heading this year is focusing our effort on that. They feel comfortable that we've met the other expected deliverables in the 9 key element plan for that 3-year position.
they do. Scott Provost has said that other than the farmer-led, we've met everything else.
Yeah. That's why I said we're about 95% of the way there.
So,
And the issue becomes is that in the 9 key element plan, it's questionable whether it does actually say we are responsible for getting a group formed or not. Because we shouldn't be, it should be a grassroots effort. We can give them the education materials, put them in the same room together, but it has to come from the producers. And not us saying you should do this.
right, so how accepting are these 4 out of 5 farmers to form this group? Or are we close or what? Are they having conversations? I mean, or
They
do
are
you
not.
just know that there's 4 that have potential?
Well, we've had one person tell us there's 4 and another person tell us there's 1. So that number is debatable. And they have had, one of the things that Kyle put on was some
Presentations, I went to some of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're heading this year, is having more of those events, trying to get 5 of them in the same room together, and they can say, yep, this is something we should do.
Do we have the staff to do that?
Which is the
Chuck
conversation.
Chuck is gone on leave, is my understanding. And that leaves 2. That leaves you and Kiefer. can you pull it off? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, can this be pulled off?
So I'll address that. That has nothing to do with the existing staff. We
Okay.
still have a grant for staffing for this specific person or
But
purpose.
we have to post that, right? And we have to get someone in here, which is still a time delay.
Yep.
I don't, okay.
And the DNR said they can extend it for that because we are gonna be vacant for, say, a month or maybe 6 weeks. But Colton and I and administration need to have a conversation about what type of criteria or do we need to have a college graduate? Would an intern be able to host these educational events? Is it something that we can utilize staff from another county? Is it there's a lot of possibilities. And until we can figure out what the best course is, we're not going to post for somebody until we know that's the right path. But it would not fall, it's not going to fall on the existing staff. This will be somehow brought in, a new person brought in to carry out the remainder of the 3-year grant.
I think it's with only 1 year left. I mean, you're gonna
Not even.
probably have to go with a intern or something like that, because who's gonna sign up for a 1-year job, right?
Right.
And,
It looks good on the resume,
I
right?
suppose.
But
and I can address that a little bit. So the position was originally posted for a 3-year position. At 3 years, that job was, the grant funding was done.
right.
And we did get a qualified individual in on that. Actually, a number of applicants. When a lot of times when graduates leave with a natural resources degree, they go to the DNR and they're very commonly 6-month LTE positions. Very project based. When your 6 months is done, you start applying for another 6-month LTE. That's fairly common. So it's not unheard of that we're going to get somebody in for a year. But that is something that is part of this conversation as far as should we have somebody who has a college graduate or has a college degree, but only expect them here for a year? Or do we go with more of an intern trying to get experience, but we would have to be a little more hands-on as far as here's exactly what needs to happen. And until we have those conversations, and we couldn't have those conversations until after we had talked with the DNR yesterday.
So you had mentioned LT positions at the DNR. Are these same people that are filling these positions an available pool of resources for coming this way and
I would think so.
yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so is anyone asking Scott if there's anyone that he has a recommendation for? I mean, if we're,
Well, it's not a pool. I mean, you post the job and then they apply.
okay,
And when I graduated, that's,
so the posting will be public enough that there's, okay,
yeah, so the same people that would apply for like a 6-month LTE with the DNR would potentially be applying for that.
so
And
the clock is continuing to tick.
Yeah.
Right?
and after our conversation yesterday, it's not a problem with extending it past the November deadline.
How far could it be extended?
He didn't say. A lot of it would depend on which direction we're going. And once Colton and I come up with a plan, we're gonna run it by him as well to make sure he would be satisfied with the outcome. And then we'd have to pull the trigger, but that would determine how late that would need to go or how much further it would need to go.
I don't know if this information is available. Maybe Kyle would know it. If we failed to find someone to fill that position and to fulfill the last part of the grant, how much is the county looking at for reimbursing the DNR?
So that number is not decided. We have taken one draw on the grant for expenses already.
Which are,
What was it? 115,000.
150 or 115? Say it again.
15.
115? Okay,
And that was for expenses that have already been incurred.
to pay for Kyle for 2 years
And
and whatever else.
we did not have the conversation about, well, for Kyle. We did not have the conversation about payback because we're going to finish the project.
Okay,
So it wasn't even an option.
okay. All right, we're still on project status, aren't we? Can you, Colton, share any of the 10-year plan strategies when it comes to farmland preservation and NMPs, nutrient management plans? I saw that was on the status report.
Yeah, so just a couple of short conversations that I've been having with DACAP. That's what they would like the county to focus more on is farmland preservation plans and nutrient management plans. I'm meeting with them next week to hopefully get a better understanding on what they're expecting of us going in. But it's still a little hazy because last week I submitted our FPPs for 2023 and she said that it looked like it was good numbers. So
It did or didn't?
It looked like it was good numbers.
Okay.
She said she had other counties that had way less. I think we had 11.
NMPs?
Still, farmland preservation.
Oh, farmland
program.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm getting two different people telling me two different things. So I'm hoping that next week it kind of clears that up a little bit more.
Okay, can you let us know? Okay. And I just have to ask, what happened at Peppermill Dam and fencing?
The fencing was broken at the dam. And so I think this happened last spring.
Okay.
Last March. And then the contractor never got back to us on an estimate or an invoice or anything. And so now getting his invoice, we signed the contract and he talked about last week he was going to get it done, but I don't think it's taken place yet because we haven't heard back from him.
Okay, all right. I was just hoping it wasn't a bear or something.
No,
Go ahead.
it looked like the bank just gave a little, or where it's anchored in, got a little
Okay.
weak and just
Bloop.
tipped. I mean, it's
Okay.
still 45 degrees, maybe a little more upright than that, but so I mean, it's not like falling down, laying down.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for the project status report? All right, moving on to land and water. Are there any questions for Dustin or the land and water staff? So Colton or Dustin, who are here today. I have a couple questions. Does the staff have enough time and opportunity to work on getting their drone operating licensing in place?
Yes.
They do. Okay. Do you want to share how that's going to be accomplished?
What do you mean?
I'm just, I see everybody doing things. From my understanding, that licensing is quite intense in terms of time and effort. And I don't want to lose sight and then also have an expensive drone sitting on the counter.
No, so I will have two going through it. I actually have a third interested, not part of land and water. But our GIS person is interested in going through that piloting also, or training as well. It's a self-directed or self-paced training. We have all the training materials. We paid for them once. We can keep reusing those. When it comes time that they're comfortable and want to take the test, that's when there's actually a fee involved. But a lot of times in the winter, Kiefer was catching up on a winter's catch-up time. As he's getting caught up, he fully intends on, or as far as I know, he's already started, but work on it as you have time. But it's not going to get dropped by the wayside because it is a very expensive toy. Equipment.
So I guess I heard you say GIS. The drone is specifically for the land and water department.
Yep.
So I guess I'm a little confused.
As a backup pilot. It would still be for land and water projects, but he would be a pilot that could operate.
That could be called into.
Right.
Okay. All right. How's the window traffic with the different office space? I mean, you've moved what, 1 week or something, or? I can't remember what.
The land and water division has been in that room now 1 full week plus a couple of days, and then zoning was a couple of weeks and a couple of days. I guess I mean the people that are going to
Nothing.
come
Okay.
are gonna come no matter where we're at.
Okay. We have on here grant report. May the committee be provided a physical report listing the grants from 2023 and 2024. What I think from my understanding, I'd like to know where the grant originates from, description, purpose, deadlines, all of them. So initial request status, reimbursement, etc. Who's going to apply for the grants? Whether that's the Land and Water Department or our centralized grant writer. I'd like to see what the department has applied for in the past and what do we have coming up on our immediate horizon. And I don't know if that's something that Colton or you can provide to the committee, but I'd like us to be aware of it moving on.
And I mean, grants are a non-stop ongoing thing.
Yep.
As far as all available grants to Land and Water, the number changes from year to year, I guess. But there's a lot, but it's a lot of times they're very project specific. And right now I do have, the staff is working on a number of other projects as far as whether we're talking about pilot licensing or anything else, to put together a report on grants that we would never have any use for. And to answer all those questions, I don't know if that would necessarily be the best use of time. As far as grants that we have ongoing, those grants do come before the committee for we pass resolutions to before we receive those grants. And as new grants come up between the professional groups, we find out about grants. We have other ways to research them as for example, there was discussion about having automatic boat washes at a couple of landings. That was a conversation that Kiefer and I had. We didn't have enough knowledge on those in order to write a grant request for this year. So that is something that Kiefer was going to look at, and we're going to revisit again next year. So I would say that's on the horizon. We are also working on the nutrient management plan grant that we just discussed. Helping reimburse for people who are writing nutrient management plans. So that would be, I'd say that's also on the horizon, but again, to participate in the grant, we would have to bring that before the committee. As far as who writes the grants, as of right now, for the most part, that's still us. We're the knowledgeable ones. Colton has been meeting with the finance department as far as tracking grants and keeping up to date on dates, accepting checks, making sure that gets deposited in the right place. That's a lot of what that grant position that has been referred to for the last year would help accomplish.
Colton, you had something to say?
I do have a document that has outlines on our grants that I made up for our new grant specialist.
Could you share that with the committee? What I fear is that we might drop the ball. I figure there's more eyes and at least more alertness. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with the committee, I would appreciate it. Okay.
I think for like upcoming grants though, our next closest one is the cost share reimbursement, and that's February 15th deadline.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Do you have everybody's email for sending that out? Okay. All right. If you don't, let me know. Okay. Thank you both. Watershed agronomist position. I think we've already discussed it. We don't know what we're doing, who that's going to be moving forward. We don't know if it's limited time. We don't know if it's full time. We don't know if it's what, right? So keep us posted. County forest report. Dustin, do you want to?
Yep. So yesterday about noon, just pretty much out of time to do anything for this agenda. We were notified that we did receive the $644,000 grant from the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund from Joint Finance Committee at the state. So that in conjunction with and that was for the purchase of the 598 total acres. That in conjunction with the DNR project loan, which was approved earlier this summer, would cover the entire cost of the purchase of the entire property. There will be, Chairwoman Shapey and I discussed this. If it's amenable to the entire committee, we would like to have a special meeting for the committee at 5 o'clock. It's right before county board. I believe it's the 20th.
I think so, yeah.
That sound right? Okay.
Tuesday, the 20th, is that right? Yes, okay.
So an hour before county board, to pass or to vote on the resolution to actually authorize the purchase. We've had resolutions along the whole way, applying for the grant, applying for the loan. We had the closed session as far as negotiations. So it's been step by step. This is the actual. Yes, buy it.
This is the resolution for actual purchase.
Yep, which
That
is written. I'm waiting for one more approval and then I knew I couldn't get it on today's agenda anyway, so we have a little time before that agenda would come out. But I will get it out to everybody. And it does have some links on the actual resolution as far as a map of the property and some of the other documents.
Corp Counsel, you're gonna be looking at it?
Yep. Yes, I will look at it.
Okay.
Which is, that is standard procedure. Once we write a resolution, it automatically goes to both Cynthia and Jeff, and they initial it at the bottom.
Okay, just 1 second, Supervisor Krug and then Supervisor Mons.
Yeah, thank you. This is it takes a lot of effort to get the Joint Finance Committee to not object to a stewardship application. So we need to get this done. This was a lot of political capital spent to get this one moved as quick as I say quick, quote unquote, but it shouldn't be here so quick, but it got here quicker than I thought it would. So I'm glad we can arrange and get this done. So.
Thank you, Supervisor Mons.
And the reason for meeting before the county board, how would what advantage is that? Because we certainly would not.
We would need to pass the resolution. I think they'd put it on the agenda for county board and then.
It's already on the agenda.
It would be.
Well, as long as,
it either fails or doesn't fail, right? So if it goes forward, then it's already there on the agenda and we move forward.
and we need to have one signature on the resolution. In order to put it on the agenda, it has to have 4 to be acted on. Is that the accurate way to put it? So, Chairwoman Shapey can sign it, and that's enough to put it on the agenda. And then the committee would act on it right before county board. If the committee denies it, then it's just a dead item on the county board.
Can you make sure that we have at least 7 business days to consider the
I'm
information?
hoping you have it in the next couple of days.
I would
So
appreciate
you'd
it.
have actually a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, do you need a motion or anything to make that 5 PM special meeting happen?
I'll defer to.
No, you just. Yeah, the chair calls it. You just need to get it get an agenda out. That's all.
All right, expect it in your guys' emails then. Anything else on the county forest?
Not this time. That's been the primary focus.
Okay, dams report.
Nothing overall. He did mention the fence or Colton mentioned the fence repair. We did get the very preliminary findings on the Cottonville Dam. We're looking around. We have options as far as which components we want to fix. Until we get a little more further along in the project. Right now, it sounds like everything would be with the investigation, it would be about $1 million, just under. But there's some stuff in there that depending on where we want to go and whether we get the grant or not would be, I think, a huge determining factor, how many of the things we want to tackle at the same time. It's all kind of related, but some stuff has this needs to be done in the next year or so. And then there's some stuff on a 5-year time frame, but if we get a grant and we have crews out there working, kind of makes sense to do it all at once. But that's an everything type deal right now is about $1 million.
Does the grant have an end date where all work needs to be finished?
I do not know the answer to that.
Colton, do you know the answer to that? No. Could you find out? Someone find out?
Yeah, and it is a very competitive grant.
I bet.
Adams County has received it in the
Dams
past.
are expensive.
Yep.
Yep.
And when you only have them every 2 years, or the grant cycles every 2 years, people save up projects. And Adams County has been a recipient in the past. And I think with AIRS doing this, and they were the ones that wrote the grant request. The way I was told to me is they were the ones that wrote the grant request the last time we got it approved.
Okay.
So
So cross our fingers that,
right.
okay.
So I think we have the best, the A team on it. So
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any questions? I'm so sorry. I didn't ask that the last time, I don't think. Any questions for Dustin? All right. Mary Lou, Lake Alliance report.
We have nothing that we haven't had. a
I think you
meeting
turned it off.
We haven't had a meeting since November, so tonight will be our first one since November.
Okay. All right. We'll look forward to when you, come back from Florida, or you're going to try to.
I'll try to do Zoom.
Okay. Okay. Sounds great. Thank you. Doreen, now it's under agricultural report versus FSA, which is why I put your name after it. Cause I was just like, what the heck is this? Oh yeah, right. Okay. Doreen, go ahead.
I don't have anything real exciting. I can report from the FSA that we met, just a organizational meeting. As far as the, I can't even remember the acronym, the emergency relief.
Is that the drought?
Well,
thing?
this is from 2022. This is not 2023 drought.
Okay.
That came out. We requested documentation from every applicant. There was probably 7 to 10, and they had 30 days to respond. 7 to 10 did not send any additional documentation, so they're automatically disapproved. And so we are meeting on the 5th and February 5th to go over the rest of the documents, but otherwise I don't have anything else.
So Doreen,
Yes.
today's the 6th.
This will be February. Oh, March.
March. Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at this
That's
point.
good. That's okay. So that's March 5th coming up.
March 5th, yes.
All right. All right. Anything else?
No.
Any questions for Doreen? Okay. Golden Sands, RC&D. Jennifer Glad is online.
I am here.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with your committee. When Chairperson Shapey reached out to me initially, the language that she used was, we're interested in getting reinstated with your organization. And I assured her that there is absolutely no reason to be reinstated because you are and have been part of our organization since the very beginning. Our organization is over 50 years old. I pulled out some historical documents that go back to 1969, the Summer of Love, when Golden Sands RC&D was just a project on the docket of USDA's Natural Resource Conservation Service. So our first original constitution and bylaws was first in 1969, and it does, in its objectives, talk about the goal of the project at that time was to develop and implement a program of resource conservation and development for central Wisconsin, including but not limited to Adams County and then 8 other counties that we were originally engaged with. I also wanted to share with you another historical document that was actually signed by Adams County, initiating our council. It was signed on February 6th of 1974 by William Kiefer and witnessed by Secretary Bertrand Quayle. So some of your forefathers in this organization helped to create what we are today. And what we are is an independent not-for-profit 501c3 organization. And I'd like to point out that we have currently 13 counties that are directly involved with us and part of our RC&D. And every single county that borders Adams County is one of our partner counties. So we work on resource conservation issues that extend outside of county lines. When I was listening to the first part of your meeting, I was making notes about all the things that we could potentially help Adams County with and have in the past. The type of things that we do are fiscal sponsorship. So when Rick from Packers was talking about how they're a fiscal agent for that farmer-led group, we provide that service also. We are a fiscal agent or a fiscal sponsorship for many organizations. Friends of Mill Creek Watershed, Friends of the Tamara-Wapaka River, Friends of the Little Plover River, tons of other groups. And this farmer-led coalition or farmer-led group that you were talking about organizing and having farmers involved, that's something that we can assist with too, because, as the DNR laid out, you can't, as a county, you can't really get in there and tell them what to do and form this group. It has to be the farmers, but the farmers don't always have the resources. A lot of the grants that are available are reimbursement based. So when Rick was talking about the Packers, they had to front, or they will be fronting $10,000 and get reimbursed on the back end. If that farmer-led group wanted to apply for a grant, even if they got the grant because they had a great proposal and a great working group, they probably don't collectively have $10,000 that they want to put up to be spent and then get reimbursed a year later or whatever. So that's certainly a need that we can fill in Adams County. We also do co-employment contracts. We do co-employment contracts with NRCS. We do co-employment contracts with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and also with our counties. So in the past, we have done so talking about need for an agronomist. In the past, we have employed an agronomist as an employee of Golden Sands RC&D that was shared among our counties. I think there were 3 counties at the time we did that each of those counties said, I need an agronomist on my staff, but I don't really have 40 hours worth of work and I don't have enough funding to employ them full time. And then another partner county said, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. So, 3 counties came together and collectively we created a full-time position for an agronomist that shared their time between those 3 counties. We've done similar situations with interns and things like that, where, one of our great partnerships that goes back all the way back to the late 80s that Adams County is involved in is the Central Wisconsin Windshed Partnership. The Windshed was born from Golden Sands RC&D. That was a project that we started studying soil erosion and what we could do on the landscape here in Central Wisconsin. And that also spun off into its own organization. And I know that in the past, Shannon, the coordinator of the Windshed, has we employ their summer LTEs. So Shannon's their only full-time employee. Their other employees all work for us. And he has kind of asked different counties to help out. Can you send me some help? I'm kind of short. I'm trying to finish up my season. And a lot of the times the county is prevented from letting their employees, like interns, work outside the county for liability reasons. So that's where we could step in and we could create an internship using our great affiliation with the College of Natural Resources, which is located just about a mile from our office, that we have tons of great relationships with professors, staff members, all those kind of things. We could potentially create an internship that would be shared among counties. We do boots on the ground conservation projects. We do that in a grant-funded environment. We do that under co-employment contracts, and we do that on a fee-for-service basis as well. We do grant administration. Grants are very heavily administrative, laborious in that way. So that's something that we can do to take that off of your staff's plate. We're currently, we partnered with you on your tree sale, reached out to Colton, we sell tree shelters. So, that's something that we're already kind of partnering with you on. I also heard you mention about, some resolutions. And I heard you talk to Colton earlier about reaching out to partner counties to talk about what they're doing about their recreational trail program. So this is the kind of information that we work with at our council meetings, where all our partner counties, our agency partners and at-large members and partner organizations come together 6 times a year at our council meeting. And these are the issues that we talk about, things that are impacting all of our counties. So instead of Colton picking up the phone and calling out Washera County and calling up Wood County and trying to reach out and reach these people, and they say, oh, you know, my tech worked on that, you're going to have to talk to this person or whatever, there's a conduit that already exists that Colton can participate in, or any of your staff members can, or your elected officials can as well, where we already come together with these counties and we talk about these issues that are impacting all of us, not just Adams County. We all share a lot of the same resource concerns. So that's a very valuable conduit there. And we also do resolutions. So if our county partners say, hey, you know, we're concerned about surface water pumping, we're concerned as a region about how this is impacting our lakes. That one's near and dear to me too. I'm a riparian property owner. I live on a seepage lake in Wapaka County, so I know the impact that can have on a small watershed. So we put that on our agenda, we discuss it as a council, and we create a resolution as a council. Now, you create a resolution as a county as well, but sometimes a resolution that's coming from a region that's signed by 13 counties and other partners has a little bit more power or a little bit more impact than a resolution that's coming from one individual county. Additionally, we are a network with the Wisconsin Association of RC&Ds. There are currently 4 RC&Ds in Wisconsin that we partner with, and we're part of the National Association of RC&Ds. There are hundreds of RC&Ds all over the US. So that gives us some power as well. We're currently, as I said, working in Adams County doing a number of things, including grazing plans that you're part of our service area that we write grazing plans for, that we have grant funding that are at no cost to the producer. So if they want to transition their operation or if they want to start an operation doing management intensive grazing, we have experts on our staff that write those grazing plans and work with those producers to do that transition or start that process. I mentioned the windshed. We do tons of outreach and education. We have demonstration forests in the majority of our counties where we're partnering with private landowners to make their woodlot, their forest, an educational attraction so that school groups, other property owners, interested organizations, we do field days and things out on these properties to just talk about how that woodland is being managed. Is it being managed for habitat? Is it being managed for timber? You know, what are they doing today? What's in their 10-year, their 20-year plan? And we have lots of other outreach and education programs. We have an environmental educator on our staff who goes out to 5th grade classrooms in many of our counties and provides environmental education lessons on things like groundwater, surface water, wildlife biodiversity, and topics like that. So there are, I also heard you talk about potentially doing boat wash stations. We worked with Green Lake Association to help them write the grant and implement their boat wash station. So that's something that, you know, we have experience with to draw from to potentially assist you in that arena as well. Just looking at my notes here to see if there isn't anything. Oh, we also have a special relationship with NRCS. I think I mentioned earlier, the RC&D program was born out of NRCS. It was originally their kind of charitable arm and was funded by them. And that isn't the case anymore. All the RC&Ds are independent, completely financially independent, as well as independent organizations. But we have a special relationship with NRCS because of that. We have a as I said earlier, we do co-employment contracts with them. We also have like a non-compete status where we can get awarded. Last time I looked, I think it was about $80,000 on a grant, on a contract with NRCS without that having to go out to competitive bid. So that gives us lots of great advantages. And from what I'm hearing about, you know, your current situation with being really low on staff, with having a new county conservationist in a position there, I think there are a lot of things that we could partner on and help Adams County out with.
I do too. I think everybody does. It sounds wonderful, Jennifer. I know you've given me hope. Wow. Anybody have any questions for Jennifer? Because I'm amazed. It sounds wonderful.
Just off the top of my head, I do not know what are C and D, and I'm sitting here trying to fill in the blanks. Can you tell me what that means?
Yes, RC&D stands for Resource Conservation and Development. The actual full legal name of our organization is Golden Sands Resource Conservation and Development Council Incorporated.
Well, I got one of the letters.
Yeah,
That
and
was
our
Doreen
council,
Olson, by the way. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I need to make an apology because back when we decided to no longer move forward with Golden Sands and we took our membership dues away, it was because we had adequate staff on that kind of duplicated some of what Golden Sands does. And so knowing that that is no longer the case, and you obviously heard we could use a lot of assistance in a variety of different ways. Could you talk about the membership dues?
Of course. So we sent an invoice and a letter to Dustin back in June of 2023 for the membership dues for 2024. Our county partners let us know that they would really appreciate having that invoice early because that's kind of the time when they're doing their planning and budgeting for the next year. So that invoice has already been sent. I have a copy of it here in front of me. The annual membership dues for a county and our organization is $1,900, $1,900. That really helps us a lot because the majority of the work we do, as I mentioned earlier, is grant funded, is contracts, and it's very restricted. As you guys are well aware with those types of funds, it is heavily restricted on when you can spend them, how you can spend them, those kind of things. So having our membership dues allows us to have some unencumbered funds that gives us greater flexibility in our operation. You know, sometimes it costs money to get a grant, right? You have to write that grant. You have to develop that project. You have to enlist your partners. So, you know, not every grant gets funded. So, you know, there's some time and funds that we spent just developing projects and doing things that involve Adams County that these membership dues really help us to be more effective in that arena.
Thank you, Jennifer. Doreen has another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's not so much for you, Jennifer. I guess it's more for the department. I guess I feel that the money is well spent if we utilize Golden Sands. But if, you know, we're going to sit in-house and I can do it all and I don't need to reach out, then it's money not well spent. So I guess that's my question.
So between Dustin and Colton, it sure sounds like we could use a helping hand. Would we be collaborating with Golden Sands? Would we be able to utilize their assistance? Hold on, Supervisor Moons.
I would just like a recommendation. I agree 100% with Doreen. And if Dustin feels and recommends to this committee that we belong to that, I would tie to them. I mean, that's
hands
the bottom
down.
line.
So it's coming. Colton, Dustin.
Sure. So I do have I guess one question I would have is, where do you see it's lacking?
Pardon me?
You made a comment that, you know, obviously there's a gap that has to be filled in.
Well, I mean, just like Jennifer just even brought up, she could help us with the intern, right? She could help get our end of our grant done. Unless I'm hearing something not correct, but isn't that what you were implying, Jennifer?
So we could employ an intern that you would fund. So I'm not saying that we would just say, here's an intern for free for the whole summer.
Right.
What I'm saying is that we could do the recruiting, do the hiring, do the payroll, do the administration. You know, I think I would imagine that Adams County, like other counties, it's difficult to get a position approved, especially a short-term position where you have unemployment liability and other kind of issues out there around hiring someone when you only have funding for 6 months or a year of project work. So that's where we can kind of be the agent of, you know, helping you find that person, getting them employed, and then we would bill you for their wages and a administrative fee to provide that service as well. Our fees are pretty minimal. We are a non-for-profit. We are all working on the same goal and having, you know, similar situations. So, you know, we do have to cover our costs of providing payroll, providing workman's comp insurance, unemployment insurance, liability insurance, all those kind of things for that person that's going to be working in your county.
And it also sounded as though you could act as the fiscal agent for another producer-led group, right?
We could, and we also have a unique perspective there in that we're independent. So things that the DNR has restricted the county from doing, like going out there and maybe soliciting other farmers and stuff, that is something that we would, as an independent organization, be able to do.
I'm thinking that sounds.
I do have a follow-up question on that one. So if a producer-led group, or I guess the initial stages of a producer-led group approached you to be their fiscal agent, that's not included with our $1,900 voluntary dues, correct?
I'm not understanding the question.
So if they approached you and said, well, we want you to be our fiscal agent, you charge for that service, correct?
Absolutely.
Right. So it has nothing to do with our $1,900 worth of dues.
No.
No.
Go ahead, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
Dues are voluntary. You know, as I stated earlier, because you haven't paid dues for the last 2 years does not mean we've dropped you from our organization. That is not the case at all. But what the dues allow us to do is focus more energy and intent on Adams County. And if a farmer-led group came to us tomorrow, whether they were in Adams County or any one of our 13 counties, and said, we want to work with you, we want you to be our fiscal sponsor, we don't look up and say, oh, well, you're in Adams County and Adams County hasn't paid their dues, we're not going to do that. We say, yeah, we want to help you. We want to help you. We want to be your fiscal agent. There is a fee involved for that because there's an expense to us to do that, to provide that service. So we provide in a very affordable way, you know, that service, and we do charge for it.
So any other questions from the committee in terms of membership dues?
And I don't know if Supervisor Moen did ask for a recommendation. My recommendation is that we do not pay that voluntary due. The services are still available, even if we needed to utilize them for something else on a cost basis. My understanding is we could still utilize them.
There's the potential that we could. There's also the potential that we would focus our area in other counties that are paying dues and that are participating in our council. So I'm not saying we wouldn't do it. I'm just saying we might prioritize other projects in other counties over you if you were non-dues paying.
So I'm of the bite my nose off to spite my face kind of thing. So I would recommend that we reinstate our membership dues and we get the help that this department needs.
I would second that.
Thank you, Doreen. Yeah, you can't get the motion from me. So I need a motion.
Well, I move that we reinstate the dues
for $1,900.
for $1,900.
And do I have a second? Supervisor Eggersdorf has made that second. Open for discussion. Anyone?
I just think that it's a resource that's available to us. And if we utilize it, great. We can always revisit it next year and see, was it worth it? But I think if it's a resource that's available, we should utilize it. I guess one of my biggest concerns is the turnover rate in this department. I mean, Dusty's the only one. I've only been on this committee 2.5 years, I think. And Dusty's the only one that's left when I started on this committee. So the turnover rate's high and we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months or a year with staff at this rate.
We shouldn't be talking about that.
Thank you. Supervisor Krug?
I was torn. I mean, I hate spending money on something that we may not need to spend money on, but I think Doreen's point is pretty accurate that we just got a lot of unknowns in the department. It's nothing against anybody who's in the department or who's head of the department or anything like that. It's just, it's a time where we're, have a lot of momentum on these issues, and I hate to lose any momentum in case something else comes up where we might lose somebody else. We're kind of at a critical juncture here. So I think it's worth a little bit of investment to kind of solidify where we're going.
I mean, even in the case of absent leaves, something comes up and someone needs to take a leave, and then balls get dropped. So I agree with Mr. Krug that yes, it is not in a reflection of anybody, my comment. It is just that this is the way it has been.
Did somebody record that Doreen agreed with me on something? Somebody got that?
Supervisor Bones?
If this passed, where would the money come from?
Pardon me?
This isn't part of our 24 budget. Where would the money come from?
We're gonna have to find it. Can we?
I don't know.
I'm looking at Colton or Dustin or I don't know, Cynthia, Kyle, anybody?
Kyle wants to say something.
Kyle?
Madam Chair, yeah, I was actually going to point out that we did not specifically budget for this item for membership dues. But
can we find it?
potentially, yeah.
Okay,
It-
that's what we needed to hear. Okay,
Madam Chair.
yes.
So there is a meeting that I'm going to have with Colton and Dustin in 2 days regarding that position. I think this is maybe where concern is coming from. And I did make a note that this is a potential resource. So what I ask this committee is to allow us to meet before making or given a direction and let us determine what the need is. So again, we're meeting in 2 days about that specific situation with the agronomist vacancy seems to be the biggest concern. And allow us to kind of gauge where we need to go. Again, I made this as a note that it's a potential resource for us to pursue.
Doreen?
Yeah, it is a big concern, but I think there's other avenues that they could help us with, not just that position.
I think so too.
And I think the dues are well spent. I believe if we can always revisit it next year. I don't remember the conversation exactly, but it was kind of felt like we weren't utilizing them. And that's why do we pay these dues if we're not utilizing them? I would like to see an effort to utilize them, and maybe we have some cost saving measures in the county by doing that.
I would agree. Also, Jennifer, I should ask you, we still have a motion obviously on the floor about membership dues. My question to you is, could you be part of the meeting that County Manager Haggard, Colton, and Dustin are, so that you can give them additional information that would be pertinent to what their discussion is about? I mean,
I'm sorry.
The position and the grant and whatnot.
Without knowing the exact date or time of that meeting, I would say yes, as long as I don't have a conflict.
Okay, so if they reached out to you when they're meeting, you could be a part of that conversation to at least solidify what Golden Sands could be doing for us.
Again, I don't want to commit myself to something without knowing the date or specific time that we're talking about if I have a conflict on my calendar, but potentially yes.
Do you have it on the
Chairwoman
calendar?
Shapey?
Yes.
I don't think it'd be appropriate to have an outside person attend a personnel meeting.
Okay, so I'm thinking we're talking about membership dues and the potential to help with an intern position, because
Wait, right now this committee starting to get into management rather than policy making. You cannot tell these individuals who should come to their meeting.
okay, that's fine. Hopefully they'd think about it themselves. So motion is on the floor to provide $1,900 to Golden Sands RC&D. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Could I see the two that are nay? Mary Lou and Supervisor Mons are nays. Motion carries. So Thank you, Jennifer. Who provides those membership dues? Does that come from you, Kyle, or through the department or?
Through the department.
Okay.
So I can
So-
resend this invoice that was sent last June. You could just let me know where to direct it to.
You can send it to the same email address you've sent before to me.
To Colton?
Dustin.
Okay, Colton had his hand up, I guess.
Okay.
You can
And
just use
then I just want to clarify, according to my records, Chairperson Shapey is our primary delegate. According to our constitution and bylaws, each county is allowed 2 delegates to our council. The one of those 2 delegates has to be an elected public official. The other one is at the discretion of the county land conservation committees, can be elected or not. So other counties do appoint their county conservationist as their second delegate. Other counties appoint, someone that's not even on the county board. But according to my records, Jody is our primary delegate. So I don't know if we need clarification on who that second delegate is, or if that is something the committee wants to consider at a later time.
So Jennifer, did you say that primarily it's usually the county conservationist?
I said some counties do that. I don't know if I can say primarily it is that. Some counties choose to do it that way. I think there's great value in the county conservationists attending our meeting and having a place on our council, but depending on, how some counties give a tech within their department. It's not necessarily the county conservationist. Some counties appoint just an interested citizen member. So there's really no right or wrong answer. It just, at least one of the 2 delegates has to be elected in your county.
Thank you. Supervisor Krug?
I think maybe we could hold off on deciding that for another time here. Let's take one bite of the apple and come back and deal with that another time if we could.
I'm actually just curious, when is the next council meeting?
It's on March 21st, and it is at the Hancock Ag Research Station.
I don't know, Supervisor Krug. Who knows your department better than your county conservationist at this point? So I guess I would entertain a motion for the secondary person to be Colton.
I would at least like it someone from the department.
Yeah.
At the minimum.
And the meeting's coming up in March, so that would be a good time for representation from both the primary and the secondary.
And I just want to mention too, that even if Colton is not your delegate, Colton is still welcome to attend all our meetings. Our meetings are open to anyone that wants to attend, whether they're a council member or not.
So I would entertain that motion if someone wants to make that or not.
I wouldn't mind making the motion. I would rather it come from the department.
So
would be my, if we could have the department delegate someone to be on the.
Okay, so not pick the county conservationist, have the department pick who the secondary.
Correct.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Sure.
I could
Okay,
second that motion.
all right, and
Yeah.
Supervisor Krug seconds it. Any discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Jennifer, one other thing that I had written down, sustainable agricultural collaboration. It sounded like you had so many things that were wonderful. So I'm going to let that go in the interest of time, and then I will reach out more on that moving forward. So thank you so much for coming and presenting and being a partner, a willing partner with Adams County.
Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited about what we can achieve together in 2024 and beyond.
Us too. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay, you too. Central Sands Groundwater County Collaborative is next on deck. I noticed that Dustin attended the meeting, so I'll turn it over to him. And then Colton was also at that meeting. So maybe you want to fill in also, and then I'll put my 2 cents in afterwards. So Dustin?
For what meeting?
The Central Sands Groundwater County Collaborative, it was in the staff report that you attended.
I wasn't at it.
You were not at it. Okay, Could we bring up the land and water staff? I'm so sorry. I misread it then. Okay, so the one that I had printed out said that you had attended it, but it's no longer on there, so.
Again, that's that draft. It's live while we're doing the document.
Okay, all right,
It was only like that for about a half hour from the time the agenda went out.
okay, okay. Well, skipping that, Colton, you attended that meeting also. Do you wish to provide us any information?
I did have to leave that meeting early, but we had Kiefer talk about our next groundwater or our well sampling this coming year with our next 4 counties, and that's gonna be happening in June. And then we talked about a departure of Jen McNally with Portage County, but she's actually going directly
To Wood
working
County.
with CSGCC.
Yeah.
And that's, after that I had to leave, so I
Okay.
didn't have much time in that meeting.
Okay. So what I got out of the meeting was a couple things. One is that there's a flyer that is currently being developed. It's the Central Sands Groundwater County Collaborative flyer, Adams County, the 6 counties that are in the group. Each did a cameo photo, decided the layout, just gives a small indication of what this group is all about. I'll pass it around, and then we can probably link it to on the meeting agenda. Also, it was brought to the attention on March 18th at 6 p.m. at McMillan Library. There's the Future of Clean Drinking Water in the Central Sands event. People are invited to attend. I'll send that around. And let's see what else we have. The Jen McNally, Colton handled. There is a discussion on a support resolution that the counties are being asked to go in front of the county board, their respective county boards, to give support to the Central Sands Groundwater Committee. So there's that. That is in the works. The resolution is in the works for support. The next meeting was April 22nd at 10 a.m. and that's at the Hancock Egg Station. And let's see. I think the resolution is to do with legislative updates and discussions possible on SB 58, which is nitrate contamination and well compensation. And so that's what that resolution of support is for. So more on that when that's actually developed. I think that pretty much covered everything. Yeah, so I'll pass these 2 things around. And then what else do we have on our agenda? DATCAP. Yep, I did not get a updated report as of after the January, I don't remember, January 2nd or 5th or something that we had already had. So once a report comes out, I'll make sure that it gets sent out. I know that Melissa has been linked on as a receipt too for that, right? From Colleen or Corrine Fallett. You have not been.
I've not been receiving anything.
No, she hasn't sent anything out. So yeah, okay, but you're on it. Yes, Supervisor Mons.
It seems to follow this meeting by about 8 days.
Sometimes it's before, sometimes it's after. Yeah, so at least you guys know I'll be sending it out when it comes. Land and Water, Lake Winnebago Land and Water Conservation Association. There were minutes attached on that Kiefer is the acting secretary for that group. Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to read those minutes. And then just so no one is fearful that we're going to be watching a whole presentation, the presentation that is linked on the agenda is just something that I thought it's important for us to realize what other counties are accomplishing. And this is a presentation that Chad Casper, Director of Winnebago County Land and Water Department, made at this January 19th meeting. It's not something that we're going to go through, but I wanted to link the presentation for those interested to go through at their leisure. It's important to see what other counties are doing, and this is an amazing wetland transformation. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of acres were lost and have been slowly being recouped due to these break wall configurations. And so take a gander at it. It's so impressive, and it has it's really changed some wetland areas for Lake Winnebago. So please take a look at it. And
Just as a note,
yeah.
Lake Michigan's been doing that for centuries.
You know, though, it's kind of a interesting thing. I see this picture way back when they threw cars out there to slow the ebb and flow, let's call it. They still are finding them. The other things, these break walls that you see, it takes a precision that I was not aware of. So it has to be frozen ground. It has to be adequate for these huge vehicles. There's this geotextile that's underneath that's all formed and dropped. And when the ice melts, it lowers down into where it needs to be. I mean, it's an absolutely phenomenal testament to success. So anyways, take a look at it when you get a chance. It's pretty impressive. Next on the agenda is annual Wisconsin Land and Water Conference. That is March 6th through the 8th. I did send an email out. I'm sorry, I had the flu, and so that was very short-circuited. Anyone else that wants to go, now we're not going to have the early bird special. But Colton, you've signed up. I know you've signed up myself. I don't know who else is going.
Right now it would be you, me, and Kiefer.
Okay. All right. So if anyone wishes to still get in on it, let us know. So otherwise, let's see. Packers, we already heard from. Financial report. Are there any questions regarding the financials? Not seeing any. All right. Moving right along. The next meeting date is March 5th, 2024 at 1300, 1 p.m. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.